In 1997, archaeologists opened a sealed tomb in Luxor, Egypt, and found something that made absolutely no sense to anyone in the room. Inside a 4,000-year-old burial chamber next to golden jewels, they found a leather pouch containing 17 fishing hooks made of copper. Not bronze, not iron, not bone or wood like every other ancient hook. Pure hammered copper, carefully shaped and sharpened by hand one by one. These hooks were buried with the dead as sacred objects for the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed copper hooks would feed the soul forever, because copper caught more fish than any other material they had ever tested. For decades, archaeologists assumed it was religious superstition and nothing more. Nobody in the scientific community took the copper hook discovery seriously. Until 2009, when a completely unrelated NASA research team studying galvanic corrosion on the International Space Station made a discovery that accidentally proved the ancient Egyptians were right all along. And when a marine biology team at the University of Florida tried to replicate those NASA findings using copper wire on fishing hooks in controlled tanks, the results were so devastating to the fishing industry that the full study was never published in any commercial fishing magazine in the United States. Not one. And I am going to tell you exactly what that study found right now. Welcome to American Fishing, the channel that uncovers the knowledge that 4,000 years of history and modern science both confirm, but that the tackle industry will never put on any shelf in any store. If you are new here, subscribe and hit that bell immediately, because everything you think you know about why fish bite is about to change forever. Here is what NASA discovered that connects directly to those Egyptian hooks. On the International Space Station, different metals are bolted together in an environment where moisture and ions are constantly present. NASA engineers discovered that when copper alloys contact steel alloys, in the presence of even trace moisture, a galvanic cell forms instantly. Copper and steel sit far enough apart on the electrochemical series to generate a continuous microcurrent of 0.3 to 0.5 volts. NASA spent over $12 million mapping every metal combination, because on a space station, uncontrolled galvanic corrosion kills crews. Their data is published in the NASA Technical Reports server. $12 million of research sitting there completely free. And a marine biologist named Dr. Kevin Hale at the University of Florida read those NASA reports in 2011 and asked one question: what happens when copper and steel enter water full of living fish? He designed a controlled experiment with 3 identical tanks, and the results were so extreme that his entire research team went silent in the room. Tank 1 with plain steel hooks attracted fish at a baseline of 11%. Tank 3 with $89 electronic attractors hit 31%. Tank 2 with 11 cents of copper wire hit 68%. 68%. More than double the electronic attractor. For 11 cents. And that copper wire technique is just one application of galvanic attraction that the fishing industry has systematically buried for over 50 years. I documented everything inside the angler's vault. Inside you will find the complete NASA galvanic data translated for anglers, the exact copper configurations for every freshwater and saltwater species, and the historical techniques that ancient civilizations perfected centuries ago. It is all in the first link in the description right below this video. But stay with me, because now I am going to explain exactly why this study should have been on the cover of every fishing magazine in America, and why it was buried instead of celebrated by the entire industry. When Dr. Hale submitted his results for publication in 2012, 2 major fishing industry trade groups requested a private meeting with him. They told him his findings were interesting but commercially sensitive. They suggested he focus his future research on other areas of marine biology. No one threatened him. No one had to. The message was perfectly clear. The study was published in a small academic journal that no angler ever reads. It never appeared in Field and Stream. It never appeared in Basemaster. It never appeared in any publication that actual fishermen subscribe to. And that is how the fishing industry keeps a 4,000-year-old secret, locked inside university libraries where it can never hurt their bottom line. The American Sport Fishing Association reports that recreational anglers spent over $53 billion in the United States last year alone. Shimano, Rapala, and Pure Fishing together control the lure market. Their product lines depend on you believing that more expensive means more fish. 11 cents of copper wire is a direct threat to that entire belief system. The Egyptians knew it. NASA proved it. A university confirmed it. And the industry buried it because $53 billion is worth protecting. Now I am going to teach you everything they tried to keep out of your hands. Now I am going to teach you the exact method that Dr. Hale used in his experiment so you can replicate his 68% result on any lake, river, or pond in America starting this weekend. But first you need to understand one thing that even the first 2 videos on this channel about copper wire did not fully explain to you. The reason copper wire works is not just about the voltage it creates. It is about the frequency pattern of the electrical discharge. The galvanic cell between copper and steel does not produce a flat signal. It produces a pulsing oscillating current that rises and falls in waves. Those waves pulse at a frequency between 1 and 8 Hz. And here is why that specific range matters more than anything else. The lateral line of a fish is tuned to detect frequencies below 10 Hz. That is the exact range where natural prey generates electrical noise. A wounded baitfish struggling in the water pulses at about 3 to 5 Hz. A crayfish moving across a rock bed pulses at about 2 Hz. The copper and steel galvanic cell pulses right inside that same window. The fish does not detect copper wire as a piece of metal on a hook. The fish detects copper wire as a living, struggling piece of food. Its brain cannot tell the difference between the signal and real prey. That is why Dr. Hale saw fish in Tank 2 attacking with aggression. They were not just approaching the hook out of curiosity like in Tank 3. They were striking the hook the way a predator strikes a wounded animal. The electronic attractor in Tank 3 produced a signal above 50 Hz. Fish detected it but did not associate it with prey because the frequency was wrong. It was like hearing a noise in another room versus smelling food on the table. One gets your attention. The other makes you move without thinking. Now here is the exact replication of Dr. Hale's Tank 2 method. Buy 18-gauge bare copper wire from any hardware store in America. A 10-foot spool costs under $2 and lasts over 100 hooks. Cut a 4-inch length of wire using regular scissors or wire cutters. Hold your fishing hook in one hand with the point facing away from you. Starting just above the bend of the hook, wrap the copper wire tightly. 5 complete turns around the shank, pressing each wrap against the last. The wraps need to make solid metal-to-metal contact with the steel. If there is any gap between the copper and the steel, the circuit breaks. Tuck both ends of the wire flat against the shank so nothing sticks out. The finished wrap should look clean and tight like a tiny copper spring. Dr. Hale used 18-gauge wire because it was thick enough to maintain solid contact but thin enough to wrap tightly without tools. Now comes the part that separates Dr. Hale's method from random wrapping. Before you cast, wet the hook in copper with the water you are fishing in. The galvanic reaction starts immediately the moment water bridges both metals. If you wet it with tap water from home, the mineral content is different. The reaction will calibrate to the wrong conductivity and underperform. Always activate the galvanic cell with the actual water you are fishing. This was step 1 in Dr. Hale's protocol and most people skip it. Now let me show you the species response data from the experiment. Channel catfish showed the strongest reaction of any species tested. Their barbels contain the highest density of electroreceptors in fresh water. 68% attraction rate with copper versus 11 with bare steel. That is a 6 times improvement for the cost of literally 1 penny per hook. Flathead catfish responded almost identically to channel catfish in testing. Blue catfish showed slightly lower response at 59% overall, but still nearly double the electronic attractor that cost $89. Crappie surprised the research team with a 44% response. Nobody expected a panfish species to show that level of electrical sensitivity. But crappie hunt in low light conditions where electroreception becomes critical. Copper wire gives crappie a signal they can home in on during twilight and dawn. Largemouth bass showed no significant response to the copper galvanic signal. Dr. Hale confirmed what every experienced copper angler already knows. Bass are visual predators and electrical signals do not trigger their ambush reflex. If you fish exclusively for largemouth bass, this technique will not help you. That honest finding is precisely what makes this study credible and trustworthy. One critical detail that Dr. Hale noted in his final research summary. The copper must be replaced after approximately 15 to 20 fishing trips. Over time, a green layer called verdigris forms on the copper surface. That oxidation layer acts as an insulator between the copper and the water. It weakens the galvanic reaction and reduces the signal strength dramatically. Scrape the verdigris off with a pocket knife blade between trips to maintain it. Or simply rewrap with fresh copper wire once you see the green buildup. At 11 cents per wrap, this is not a maintenance cost anyone would notice. The ancient Egyptians did not have NASA data or university experiments. They had 4,000 years of observation passed down generation to generation. They noticed that copper hooks caught more fish than bone or bronze hooks. They did not know about galvanic cells or electroreceptors or Hertz frequencies. They just knew that copper worked and they trusted what the water showed them. 4,000 years later, NASA spent $12 million to prove them right. A university confirmed it. The fishing industry buried it. And now you have it. If you want the complete galvanic system, including the NASA voltage tables and the species response charts from Dr. Hale's full experimental data, the Angler's Vault has everything organized and ready to use on the water, with seasonal timing guides and water conductivity maps for every region. It is in the first link in the description. Grab it before this video ends. Every subscription to this channel keeps 4,000 years of knowledge alive. Subscribe, hit that bell, and send this to every fisherman in your life. Because the Egyptians were right, NASA proved it, and now the secret is yours.